action from the second heat of the Kameel 500 is proudly brought to you by Ural Trucks in association with Fila Africa. The majority of the competitors from Heat 1 that was run the day before were present and getting ready for the final 260 kilometers of racing of the 2020 Ural Trucks and Fila Africa Inland Off-Road Championship. With some of the championships still undecided, everyone was going to give it their all, one final push to end the season on a high. A similar format to that of Heat number 1 on the previous day, namely a sprint qualifying prologue of a very short 10 kilometers, meaning times were going to be close, followed by a main race of 250 kilometers lay ahead for the guys and girls that were surviving on the Inland Off-Road Championship in 2020. Lining up for the start of the qualifying sprint, the competitors are set off at 1 minute dust gaps, and it was needed. It was super dry up at Kameel to ensure everyone had a fair chance of posting the best qualifying time they could, which would then translate to their starting position for the main event. After a trouble-free run in Heat number 1, Chris Visser and Albertus Fenter were off first, hoping for a repeat performance. Setting the fastest time by some 8 seconds meant they were setting off first again, clear air into the main race. Could they repeat their performance of the first day? The hard-charging Vryburg businessman Malcolm Koch with his son France on the notes easily topped the Class T standings and didn't disappoint in Heat number 2 for their prologue sprint, again posting the fastest time in class. Getting straight back into the swing of things was Henny de Klerk in the orange VW Amarok, once again showing he still has a great turn of speed even in sprint events, with the rookie navigator Andre de Villiers alongside him, feeling good about his first performance the day before. After an indifferent Heat number 1 on day number 1 of the Kameel, Ernst Roberts and Henry Kerner were once again fired up going into Heat number 2, hoping to not repeat their problems of the prologue on the first day. Already giving it their all at every race, we were eager to see what and if the two of them had in reserve to try and turn their final weekend of racing around. The rookie, Eben Besson, who is still extremely new to off-road racing, had the luxury of a seasoned navigator in the form of Rian Kreling next to him. Getting to grips with the Navara nicely in Heat number 1, they then had all eyes on them as they set off into Heat number 2 to see what they could do. But realistically, the eyes were on the high horizon, looking forward into 2021. New blood into the 2020 season in their first ever full season of off-road racing. The Penta Motor Group entry of Philip Buerter and Roelof Janssen van Rensburg had a bit of an up and down affair. Maybe this was their chance for redemption. 260 Ks to go. Anything was possible for the Penta boys. And then this was a sight to behold. Regular national competitors, the Horn brothers from Malalan, decided to join the fray. This time, though, driver and navigators swapped around. Could the driver, this time, Werner, get the job done? And would his brother survive the ordeal? Join us after the break to see what went down in the rest of the prologue rollout.
Coming up this week on Ignition GT, we are in the stylish, trendy and proudly South African Polo Vivo Mswenko.
They couldn't have done it with any other car. This is the one.
We attend the Peugeot 2008 launch in the middle of the bush.
And I must say I was very impressed because that was a very slippery road.
And Ernest is cruising in the updated Toyota Fortuner.
The VX over here paid the dentist a little visit and had that overbite sorted out.
Back with the Inland Off-Road Championship and the final day of racing. That was Heat number 2 up in Kameel. One more heat stood between Stompie Meinhardt and Adrian Rutz's Class D championship aspirations. A class win in heat number 1 the previous day saw them place one hand on the trophy. Could they now walk away with the Class D championship? Come later on in the day. Their rivals, Tians du Toit and James O'Mahony, certainly weren't about to give up on trying their best to wrestle the Class D trophy from their main rivals, Stompie Meinhardt and Adrian Rutz. Both teams driving the classic Toyota Land Cruisers. On board now with Glenn Turon and Craig Galvin, now just needing to finish heat number 2 to clinch the ultra-competitive Class G championship. Their strategy of keeping it steady and staying out of trouble seemed to have worked for the 2020 season, and winning the Class Championship would be just rewards for their approach to the season. On the other side of the coin though, in Class G, the defending champions Vernon Mostert and Brother Leon needed a miracle to be able to retain their number 1 plate in 2020. But as all racers do, they were going to chase right up until the very bitter end, and chase hard indeed. Converted tarmac and track racing specialist Simon Murray alongside Kim Bergman as navigator were not in the running for the championship, but it was here that they were trying to get themselves ready for the 2021 season. Out there having fun, learning a lot, and trying to once again push for the wins at the final stage. In the specials, the two Martins, that's senior and junior from the Van Jaarsveld clan, had a very strong run of it in the season. They were slowly getting to grips with the ex-national championship winning batch spec number 4. And oh boy, does it have one of the best sounding motors out there, a 6-litre Chevy V8, ripping it up. Putting in a guest appearance in Terence Marsh's own race car, multiple SA Championship winning driver Evan Hutchinson has his 16-year-old daughter alongside, Taylor, doing the navigating. Mimicking what Terence did with his daughter at the Lichtenberg 250 earlier in the season, it was great to see the father and daughter pairing in action for the first time ever. Just in it for the fun of it. We haven't seen these guys racing for a long time, but with no championship pressures, Barnard and Manette Johnston could sit back and enjoy the ride, so to speak. After some issues in heat number 1, the husband and wife team were hoping for a nice clean run to end off the 2020 season with style. Only recently making the switch from the side-by-sides, Naldo Pieterse seems to be enjoying the V8-powered Zarko a lot now. Alongside him, navigator Ruan van Deventer is also getting to grips with the notes quite nicely. The terrain at Kameel seemed to really suit the big tyres and muscular power of the specials. Back on the production vehicle sides, Jannie Visser and Donnie Moret together for the last time as driver and navigator at this event. We're another pairing hoping for a trouble-free outing. Donnie will take the reins of his own Ford Ranger in Class T next year, and the year spent alongside seasoned and experienced Jannie could stand him now in very good stead for the future. After the troubles in heat number 1 on day 1 of the Kameel, now still running with only rear-wheel drive instead of the usual 4-wheel drive on the Class Gs, Christo Rose and Onno Olivier were going to do their best, giving their Can-Am Maverick one last outing before also making the switch across to a Class T bucky, the Ford Ranger, for 2021. Still in with a shout of a third place in the side-by-side Class G Championship, Aldi Erasmus and Andre Geldenhuys wanted to put the DNF of heat number 1 behind them and concentrate on the road ahead, with the race route playing right into the capabilities of the high stance on the Polaris Razor. For the D20, fast but not consistent was the description. With issues encountered in heat number 1, Johan Besson was looking to go as hard as possible, with Gerry Prinsloo as navigator, keeping them pointed in the right direction most of the time. The The 17-year-old Basil, son of Kearney Besaidnout, who raced heat number 1, was looking forward, although nervously so, to making his racing debut. It helps though to have an experienced navigator in the form of Rickers Hutting alongside him for the ride. Back to the specials, and Sean Kruger alongside Johan Becker seem to be getting to grips with their Gymco quite nicely in 2020. Perhaps not the fastest in terms of sheer outright speed. They are becoming consistent though, and therein lies the key for a good cross-country and off-road championship season. One wonders if Jeff Minnett, regular national championship navigator, is perhaps considering a change of seat based on his driving performance in heat number 1 so far. Great to see Jeff on the wheel of one of the small buggies. Hein Kruger reunited with his navigator for one last season, Paul Moret. Not in the running for the championship honours, but what better way to end the fun of the last season at the very final race. One last hurrah. Still piloting one of the older generation side-by-sides in the Class G Can-Ams, Stefan Elof and Jaapie Brunet were simply out there having some fun to do what they could. It was a long route, and it would be a tough and testing day in one of the older spec, slightly lower powered Can-Ams. Having already creamed the Class E Championship, Johan Versa and Jerry Besson had more than a hand on the overall production vehicle championship at this stage. Could they, though, achieve the golden season and have a clean sweep in 2020, going undefeated? Having missed out on a number of races this season, Dolph de Toy showed in heat number 1 that he's not lost any of his speed during his downtime. Even with son Daniel as rookie navigator along for the ride, they still showed form. Father and son pairing Aki and Jandre Kruger have also romped home in the number 1 position for their championship for the Class Fs, but still had hopes of an outright chance in the overall championship. Everyone was not ready to give up the ghost just yet. And the girls team of Carleen Croshaw and Marina van Skalkwyk also had their Class B championship sewn up, wrapped up tightly in a bow. But the question mark was for the special vehicle overalls to see if they could get the double-doubles. They were up against the boys once again. Here's a breakdown of the final prologue results. 10Ks done, another almost 250 still to go. Visser and Fenter topping the charts once again, with Roberts and Kerner close, just 8 seconds off their back wheel. The Cox chasing them down, and then de Klerk doing the numbers in the number 4 spot. Fastest of the open wheels, a great drive coming out of Simon Murray and Kim Bergman. They topped the charts for the specials as well as the side-by-sides, taking 8th overall, setting up a great day at the office for them. And look at how many Class Gs were peppered inside of the top 15. Join us after the break as we go racing for the final time. Heat number 2 at Kameel.
How confident do you feel at the moment?
Not at all. Never. It's Latele.
This is going to test our vehicles. It's going to test the driver, definitely, and the nerves. So yeah.
It was totally unexpected.
This was rough, right?
This time on Toy Makers. The Toy Maker returns to the Capital City Bike Fest in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he will help judge the Road Devils Car Show. Witness an American daredevil risk life and limb, and plan to reveal a converted epic V-twin performance motorcycle.
Welcome back to the final day and final round of the Inland Off-Road Championship for 2020 out at Kameel to wrap things up and decide all of the overall champions, with many of the categories already decided. Powering their way to second place in Class F with only two-wheel drive, TG Jens van Rensburg and SW Conradi ended their season on a high and would be keen to get going full-time in 2020. For Suez Moret and navigator Philip Skitter, eventually they ended 4th place on the race, a very highly competitive Class E championship as well, after encountering a few niggles along the way. A 3rd place in the championship was maybe not what they'd hoped for at the start of the season, but not a bad result either way. The 17-year-old Basil Poseidon was still writing exams on Friday, and here on Saturday he was driving a race car at speed with Rickers Hutting in the hot seat. Basil finished his first ever race 6th place in the Class Gs, saying he will be back for more in 2021. We can't wait to see what he's got for us. It was a case of too little, just a little too late for their title defense. The Mostert brothers also encountered a lot of problems on the final day of the season, thereby ending 2nd in the Class G Championship and giving away their coveted #1 plate. The Mosterts, though, always going to be champions and looking to get that #1 plate back. The worst thing you can do to a champion is make him lose. They'll fight back even harder the following season. 3rd place in Heat 2 of the hotly contested Class E was not too shabby for Dolph de Toy and son Daniel. Daniel thoroughly enjoyed the race, and for once he could tell his dad what to do, and Dad had to do it. Smiles all round then. With only one blemish on their near-perfect season where they scored a 2nd place. That's not bad for a rough day. Oki and son Jandre finished off a season with yet another Class F win for their credit. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't enough to clinch the overall championship, but 2nd overall was now in the bag. Wayne Smith and Hendrik Rutt did all they could to finish races and keep adding to their points tally the whole season. 2nd place in Class E today also meant cementing 2nd place in Class E for the championship. Solid and consistent as ever in the Hilux. With more mechanical issues along the way, Tions de Toy and James O'Mahony pushed as hard as ever, but could only manage a 3rd place this time in Class D for the day. Still though, they managed to secure 2nd place in the Class Championship along the way, and that was a job well done. 2020 also saw them score their first Class win of an event. For the navigator turned driver, Jeff Minott and Andreas Salva finished Heat 2 in 4th place for Class G, having had some problems out there on the tough route on the final day. But they enjoyed it tremendously, and Jeff vowed to be back behind the wheel at some point in 2021. And here with our fairy tale. Johan Visser and Jerry Besson had a perfect year, the only crew in the whole championship to have won all 6 races in their class, and in so doing also claimed the overall production vehicle championship for 2020. Well done to a very deserved crew in their awesome, unstoppable Toyota Hilux. In the swan song for their Can-Am Maverick, Christo Rose and Honor Olivier took a great 3rd place in Class G. Remember, still only running rear-wheel drive. No mean feat considering they had to tough it out the entire weekend. A never say die attitude seemed to be their motto, and it paid off in the end. We say cheers to them as they now join the ranks of production vehicles. Proving that he had the pace, Johan Besson and navigator Harry Prinsloo took 2nd place in Class D, and that just over 3 minutes behind the class winners after 260 grueling kilometers of racing. The Penta Motor Group entry of Philip Buerta and Roelof Janse van Vuren always provides a great spectacle, this time from the air, whether it's getting the helicopter to battle to keep up on the straights or getting to the finish line with their FIA spec Nis Navara a little bit worse for wear. Case in point, as can clearly be seen here at the end of their day, which also marked the end of the season with them. I'm sure it'll buff out. The guys at Redline will sort them going forward into next year, where they will be looking for glory. Not only does a Toyota Land Cruiser have a high center of gravity, but when piloted by a no-fear racer such as Stompie Mainhardt, chances are you're going to be up on 2 wheels more than you would like. It takes a special kind of navigator and trust. In this case, Adrian Roots is indeed that special person. Winning Class D to secure their Class D title and ending up 3rd overall in the Production Vehicle Championship brought down the curtain on an extremely successful season for the pairing. There are few things as impressive as a 5-litre V8 power Toyota Hilux racing Bucky at full flight on a dirt road. Again, our helicopter had to pull out all the stops to keep up with the flying Hilux of Bernard and Manette Johnston here on their way to a 5th place in Class T. As we said at the top of the show, we haven't seen this Bucky or this pairing racing for a while now, but it seemed that heat number 1 the day before was simply a dust-off. Day number 2, they truly came back to life and showed what the T22 can do. With their main championship rivals never getting close to them, Glenn Turon and Craig Galvin knew the championship was theirs and in the bag. But still, they pushed hard to eventually take second place in heat number 2 for the Class Gs. And the Class G title was theirs. Confirmed. Job done. They are number 1 going forward into next season. The well-experienced Jannie Visser with navigator Donnie Moret had a disjointed season, swapping machines throughout the year. Too many mechanical issues when they drove Donnie's Ford Ranger earlier in the season saw them switch back to Jannie's Hilux halfway through. The pair will be in their own buckies respectively next season as competitors. The big thundering V8 Bat Spec 4 of the Van Jaarsvelds had an awesome run. Father and son, the two Martins, didn't put a foot wrong to win both Class A and the special vehicle category in heat number 2. If they can start the 2021 season the way they finished 2020, we can definitely expect big things from them in the future. Possibly not only winning out in the special vehicles, but potentially taking it all the way to the top and winning outright to see the flag at a couple of events. In the case of Simon Murray, well, we can only hope that he does convert a few more of his track racing buddies to come and join us, as he seems to have taken to off-road racing in a big way. Crossing the finish line in Class G, taking first at the final time of asking, Simon is well on his way to becoming a force to be reckoned with, not only on the Inland Off-Road Championship, but also for the national competitors. Fun was had by the Horn brothers, but after the proverbial dust settled, it was clear this was a fun outing, and normal service will resume at the Nationals, with the driver and navigators taking their positions back where they should be. But as far as the Inland Off-Road Championship finale goes for 2021, we'll see them swap out once again. We can't wait to see what goes down. For a first outing after a long absence from racing, Henny de Klerk thoroughly enjoyed what went down at Kameel, and the newbie navigator Andre de Villiers also said it was awesome to be part of an event like the double day at Kameel. Henny is embarking on a race program in 2021 in preparation for another Dakar onslaught in 2022. We'll be watching his journey with great interest and following his progress. Having not raced in a while now, Evan Hutchison had to get back into the swing of things very quickly up at Kameel. Add in that the fact that he had his precious cargo next to him in the form of his 16-year-old daughter, pressure was on him not to mess up. Well, in the end, it was a happy result, as the top father and daughter pairing walked away with second place in Class T at the final time of asking. What a great way to wrap up a season. Also putting in a stunning drive in only his second outing, Ibn drove faultlessly to pick up second place in the very fast Class FIA category, guided perfectly by Rian Kreiling in the navigator chair. Taming these 5-litre V8 monsters is not something everyone is capable of, and although it's early days still, we could expect very strong results coming in 2021 from Ibn. And 2021 is just around the corner with a very short off-season this time around. When Malcolm Cock is in a hurry, not many people can keep up. His son France kept them pointed in the right direction all weekend long, and the Ford Ranger never missed a beat. The Mustang-engined Ranger is a sight to behold at speed, and the pair took no prisoners in heat number 2, ending up victorious in Class T and scooping a great second place overall to boot. And a lovely comeback of the season. Making up from their problems in heat number 1, Ernst Roberts and Henry Kerner were definitely on a mission at heat number 2, the final day of racing. And once they hit the front early on, after Chris Visser's demise due to a broken prop shaft, the pair in the Nissan Navara never looked back. It was literally pedal to the metal the whole way. A fine first place then in Class FIA, and the overall first place for heat number 2 secured their FIA Class Championship title for 2020. Let's go through the results from the final day at Kameel. Confirmation of the Van Jaarsvelds hammering the nail at the top of the pile in the special vehicles for the Class A's, and the Class B's, Carleen and Morena beat out the boys once again. In the special vehicle overalls, no surprise then to see the A69 of the Van Jaarsvelds at the top, beating out the Kruger and Becker pairing, and Fourie and Leroux knocked down to a number 3 spot this time around. Production vehicles Class D saw Stompie Mainhardt and Adrian Roots hammering it at the top once again. Tians du Toit and James O'Mahony having to take 3 spots, with Besson and Prinsloo up into number 2. Class E's was Visser and Besson. Production vehicle Class F, Oki and Jandre Kruger finished off their perfect season at the top of the charts, and in the Class G's, Simon Murray and Akim Bergman starting to become key players. Watch out for them next year. Production vehicle Class FIA, the Fast Boys at the top, Roberts and Kerner beating out Besson and Grayling, and in Class T, Malcolm and Franz Koch hammering the nail above Evan and Taylor Hutchison. Production vehicle overalls, no surprise to see Roberts and Kerner on top ahead of the Cox, and then Besson and Grayling beating out the Hutchinsons, Andre de Villiers alongside de Klerk rounding out at strong number 5. And this is for the championship. Class A championships after a full season of racing. Sean Kruger is the champion in Class A for the drivers, and navigation goes to Becker. For the Class B championship, the drivers' championship goes to Carleen Croshaw, with the navigators' championship going to Marina van Schalkwyk for the Class Bs. Your champions in Class P, even though there were no show at the final event, the drivers' champion is Tony Gavea, with the navigator champion, Mikey. And the Class D championship looks like this. Stompie Mainhardt having a great season to win it out, and Adrian Roots tags another championship to his navigation seat in the Inland Off-Roads. The Class E championship was a nail-biter as well. Johan Visser takes his championship for the drivers, and Jerry Besson championship for the navies. That's in the production vehicle Class E's. Climbing the ladder then in the Class F's, Oki gets it ahead of Jandre, the Krugers going 1-1 in their championship respectively. For the Class G's, the side-by-sides, it was an interesting one. Glenn Turon takes his first ever Drivers' Championship. Craig Galvin has been in the seat before, but not in the Class G's. He gets his seat. For the Class T's, Malcolm Koch hammers it in the Class T Championship. Things will tighten up next year, and Donnie Murray got a great run going. He actually walks away with his championship for the Class T's on navigation. Class FIA was pretty much dominated throughout 2020 by one pairing. Ernst Roberts, the driver, Henry Kerner on the notes. They are your champions on drivers and navigation in FIA. And the special vehicle overalls, amazingly enough, it's a B at the top. Carleen Croshaw is your overall drivers champion, and Marina van Schalkwyk your overall navigator champion. And production vehicles, Johan Visser in a Class E is your champion. We saw this again last year. We're going to see it one more time. Class E, it's Johan Visser and Jerry Besson, top of the charts for production vehicles.
From Fila Africa side and Ural Trucks, we want to thank you for a beautiful season. It was a year full of events, and we're looking forward to the 2021 season. As you can see, we enjoyed it just as much as all the competitors, and thank you for a nice year. Looking forward to see you next year. Thank you.
And at the final prize giving, everyone was awarded the lost trophies as well as their championships. It's going to be an interesting season as we go forward into 2021. The calendar looking like it's going to run long and deep, so we'll be racing late into the year. And even though 2020 saw a short championship, it was still a tough championship. 2021 will be even tougher, and hopefully we get to run the entire calendar and decide a fair run. This has been the Inland Off-Road Championship for 2020, brought to you by Fila Africa in association with Ural Trucks.